everyone. I hope this message finds each of you so very well. I'm speaking to you from my studio in West Orange, New Jersey, and I could not be more delighted to have the pleasure of interviewing Hillary Faye, who is an intuitive healer, teacher, and mentor to energy healers, Reiki masters, and spiritual teachers. For more than 20 years, Hillary has devoted herself to the path of healing, turning the heartbreak and trauma of her childhood into a profound journey of awakening. By the age of 17, she had endured nearly every adverse childhood experience known as the ACEs. Yet rather than letting those hardships define her, Hillary chose resilience, investing thousands of hours and countless resources into her own transformation, and in doing so, reshaping her life from pain into purpose. Guided by spirit, Hillary came to understand that her healing was never meant for her alone. It was a sacred calling to ensure that no one would ever feel as unloved or isolated as she once had. She has become a teacher of teachers, guiding and mentoring more than 5,000 heart-centered energy healers in awakening their innate gifts. And she also helps people open to the spirit within, reconnect with loved ones who have crossed over, and commune with higher dimensional benevolent beings, including the Arcturians, revered as the ancient master healers of the galaxy. Hillary channels profound healing transmissions and ascension teachings from divine guides, including Kuan Yin, Mary Magdalene, Archangels Michael and Raphael, the Fairy Queen Council, and star beings of light, such as the Lemurians, Arcturians, and Pleiadians. Each offering she shares is imbued with timeless soul wisdom and unconditional love. I'm looking forward to talking with Hillary, who's joining me from Sarasota, Florida, about her adverse childhood experiences known as the ACEs, how she channels healing transmissions and ascension teachings from guides and star beings of light, and the incredible story of her dog surprise ascension. We'll also explore how her dog's ascension prompted an awakening and rebirth within Hillary, how Hillary helps people to know what their soul gifts are, and so much more. Hillary holds a sacred space where others are empowered to transform trauma into healing, awaken to the love within, and step courageously into the fullness of their soul's gifts. Her work resonates deeply with the mission of Grief and Rebirth podcast, and this interview will surely provide us with both enlightenment and enrichment through Hillary's unique and transformative insights. Hi there, and welcome to the Grief and Rebirth podcast. I'm your host, author and trauma survivor Irene Weinberg, here to encourage you wherever you are in your healing journey. In each episode, I chat with incredible grief and trauma specialists, healers, mediums, and celebs, as well as remarkable people who have inspiring healing stories to share. If you're looking for a podcast that's both uplifting and inspiring, you've found it. Let us help you find your joy in life. Hi, Hillary. A warm welcome to Grief and Rebirth.
It's a pleasure. You are an inspiration to me and so many. I'm so grateful to be here with everyone today.
Thank you. This is going to be a great interview because there's so many things. As I was researching you, there were so many things that I was not that familiar with. Like, for instance, when you said you experienced all these things that happened to you called the ACEs, I was like, what is the ACEs? I had to look that up. Or who are these Pleiadians or the Lemurians? So this is going to be really fascinating. And I know that more and more our extraterrestrial friends are coming into our energy system. I know that much, but I know you're going to teach us a lot more. So let's begin with the beginning and tell us about the heartbreaks and trauma you experienced growing up and share how you processed that, all that grief and trauma from such a young age that you experienced as a result of that.
Thank you, Irene. One of the biggest messages I've received in that trauma, I'll share a little bit of a story. At one time when I was 12 years old and I was inside my closet in my bedroom, and I used to think, and I feel many of us who have had challenging childhoods or who are dealing with challenging situations, sometimes we internalize that experience as if we're in the mud and we can't recognize ourselves from the mud. But I had, as you mentioned, went through 9 out of 10 of these ACEs, which are adverse childhood experiences, like having a parent be incarcerated, a parent be addicted to drugs, abuse, neglect. And in that situation of especially seeing the choices that my parents had made, I thought that I was a real piece of crap. And I was in my closet at 12 years old, and I used to have that thought regularly. I was very suicidal. I had had so much put on me that I didn't even really know how to function through life. And I would hide in the closet a lot. And that thought would come to me all the time in my own mind, that if this is my life circumstance and situation, this must be who I am, that I
Wow.
couldn't differentiate myself between the mud that I was experiencing in my life. And that's when a voice came to me for the very first time when I was in that closet at 12 years old. And the voice said, this, what you see around you, is not who you are. What you're seeing around you, like living with drug addicts and things like that, it is not a reflection of who you are. And I couldn't even comprehend what that message meant because I was so inside the mud that I couldn't even see outside of the mud. But I never forgot this calm, loving voice repeating that to me again and again. This, what you see outside of you, is not a reflection of who you are. And I thought it was the voice of an angel because I knew it wasn't my voice, because my voice was telling me I was a piece of crap. It was a different voice. And years later on my healing journey, when I was learning Reiki, my teacher told me to send Reiki back in time to a time where I would have needed it the most. I chose that moment in the closet, and I had an experience where I was shown the voice I heard was the voice of myself, not an angel, that I had been guiding myself all along. And I've been told by spirit many times that that message is for all of us. So whoever is really feeling that struggle with their life circumstances or what they may have experienced growing up, to recognize that those circumstances and conditions are not who you are. That message really was life-changing for me.
Do you feel that what you went through was something necessary in a way for your path, for you to experience those things, to be able to help other people who are going through all kinds of trauma and pain?
I do. I've been shown many times that there's a level of understanding having gone through the depth of that. And it awoken such a huge passion in me where I never wanted anyone to feel as alone and unloved as I once felt. It also, by the time I was 17 years old and very suicidal, after a failed suicide attempt, I became acutely aware that I could not continue with this life with everything that had been put upon me. I could not continue. I didn't know how to function through life. But after I survived the suicide attempt, I knew I was meant to live. And I knew that I had to heal. And that's why I dedicated everything to healing. And in the beginning, I never could have imagined being a healer or a spiritual teacher. That thought wouldn't even cross my mind. I didn't think I was good enough to be able to help anyone. I did all of this healing work, yoga, meditation, energy healing, reading, therapy, all of this because I was trying to find a way to live after everything that I had experienced. And at a certain point, Spirit told me, you didn't learn all of this just for yourself. You are here to share this. And that was another big awakening for me, which I feel that adversities initiate us into greatness. And that medicine or that thing that we didn't receive. Like a big part of my mission is helping people to feel that love within themselves because I didn't feel it and I didn't receive it. And I've been shown that kind of what you feel may be missing. What's missing from the party is what you are meant to be bringing to the party. And that's why it's missing, because you're the one bringing it. So I'm truly grateful. I'm truly grateful for everything that I experienced. And I have so much love for my parents and all that I went through.
Have they learned a little bit by what you're role modeling because you changed so much and you grew so much? Has that helped? Because I had that experience from what I had done. I helped certain factions, parts of my family to heal. Have you, has that happened for you?
Yes.
That's such a blessing. That is such a blessing. When did you start to actually channel? Because I know you heard this voice. It was like a male voice came into your head, or a female voice, or a.
It was a female voice, which I thought was the voice of a female angel, but I was later shown was actually my own voice, was the voice of my higher self guiding me. And I received messages, but very sporadically. Like, I listened to your deeply inspiring story, Irene, and I cried and I resonated with it because for many years I would receive messages sporadically. I didn't always know what they meant, but it was after a certain point, I had been teaching a lot of what I had been taught: Reiki, yoga, meditation, working with Kundalini energy. And at a certain point, my guides came to me and said, you will no longer be teaching anything you have ever taught before or anything you've ever been taught. All these new teachings were going to come through. Wow. And that's when I started what I consider to be more regular communion and telepathic communication with many benevolent beings.
And these benevolent beings, could you introduce them to us and tell us how they came through to you? I know like some of them are master healers of the Arcturians are master healers of our galaxy, but you also received. So give us an introduction to Kuan Yin. I know most people know Mary Magdalene, Archangels Michael and Raphael, the Fairy Queen Council. People are going to want to know, who is that? And star beings of light, including the Lemurians and Pleiadians. And could you also, while you introduce us to them, could you give us some of the wisdom teachings they've given you to share with us?
Yes. Kuan Yin, starting with Kuan Yin, she's one of the guides I'm most connected with, and she is a bodhisattva, which is one who dedicated their life to stay behind to help hold compassion for all beings until all beings are free of suffering. And she really is a great goddess. She's kind of known as like the Mother Mary of the East, and she's the most luminous being that I've ever worked with. And her message is around such deep compassion, us all receiving that compassion and recognizing that through the mud of the adversity and challenges that we experience in life, we become that lotus. And even scientifically, it's been proven the healing qualities within the lotus, within the rose, and the lotus wouldn't have those healing qualities if it didn't go through that experience. And my primary guides are called the Arcturians. They connect with us in their holographic light bodies. So they don't connect with us in physical bodies, but in holographic light bodies. And they are the most highly loving, joyful, ancient, enlightened star beings in our galaxy. They're from the star Arcturus, the orange giant within the Milky Way galaxy. And they're master healers and masters of ascension who bring crystalline living light, coherent harmonic frequencies to support humanity through our healing, wow, through our wholeness, through our ascension. In that process of that awakening, these are a lot of the guides that came to me. The Lemurians are actually fifth dimensional beings from the first fifth dimensional civilization on Earth before the time of Atlantis. And they primarily still inhabit in Mount Shasta in Northern California and in different areas of Hawaii, like Kauai. The Pleiadians are another group of a collective of benevolent, loving star beings, and they're the keepers of the fifth dimension of consciousness, which is actually unity consciousness. And they're from M45, the Pleiades star cluster. If anyone studied any astronomy, we can kind of see these different stars in the night sky. And one of the biggest messages I've received from the Arcturians that they keep sharing is how much support humanity has, that we are not meant to heal alone, that we have so many benevolent guides, the archangels, angels, ascended masters, the benevolent star beings of light who know how deeply humanity suffers and who want to support humanity because they've gone through it. Like the Pleiadians and the Arcturians. The Arcturians are the highest dimensional star beings in our galaxy. So they're the keepers of pure spirit. And in that, they are in oneness always. They are one with God's source. And the message they give me most continuously is we are always in oneness with you, and we invite you to embrace the oneness with us because we have the support and we're not meant to do it alone, and we're not meant to feel alone in our healing journey and our grief journey.
How wonderful that you opened and your vibration got so high that they wanted to communicate through you. That's in a way of such a big compliment. Can you also tell us who are these Fairy Queen Council?
Yes, I definitely don't want to forget them. I actually have a fun little story with that. I always felt connected with fairies, and my name being Hillary.
And fairies
Faye.
are real, and there are fairies on the planet and all of that. Are they like a different type of, they're a different type of being? Are they extraterrestrial that are here on the planet with us?
I see fairies more as nature's angels. But they are multidimensional. So they are beings, some fairies are the embodiment of a specific element. So there's fire fairies, water fairies, air fairies, earth fairies, like the fairies of the forest, which are often called woodland nymphs. So some fairies embody the element, but there's a collective of fairy queen councils that include the fairy queen of light, the fairy queen of healing, the fairy queen of protection, the fairy queen of joy. And they, like the star beings, have undergone this ascension process where people used to think of fairies like, oh, they're tricksters, or, if you upset them, they'll do something to you. But these fairies that I work with, they are highly benevolent. They have gone through their ascension process where they really are pure light, and they're nature's angels. So they are the keepers of nature. And in that, they're supporting Mother Earth with her own ascension process, the transmutation process, and they want to support humanity with that as well. And different aspects of who we are can be these different beings, can be a representation of these beings, where many of us, like if you light up when I talk about the Arcturians or the Pleiadians, there's a good chance that you had a lifetime on Arcturus. I'm being shown, Irene, that you definitely did. You're an Arcturian, and that we've known each other before.
Wow, that's exciting.
Yes. So some of us may, in our soul essence, have angelic light, fairy light, star being light, and it's really beautiful to see. And I feel like that's part of our purpose, where they want to help us with our purpose and help us with joy and harmony and self-love. That's the intention of these different collectives.
So the purpose for all of us, for you, for me, for everyone, is to ascend and to evolve, and they're here to help us.
Yes.
They must be a little distressed about what's going on in this world, or do they view that as a challenge to bring in healing energy to help all of us because we're in the Aquarian age, I know, and the vibration is rising.
It deepens their commitment to support us when we're moving through these challenges. It really does. Their commitment to supporting us is so deep. There are so many teams of light that are supporting humanity right now. And when we choose to connect with them, we can receive infinite blessings.
It's amazing. So now you were talking about the soul purpose and soul gifts. How do you help people to know what their soul gifts are? And because like you at one time, you had no idea. And how does this help them to identify their soul purpose? Like for me, I had to go through this. I went through this car accident and all these things that happened to me, which brought me to identifying my soul purpose. And I've subsequently also discovered some soul gifts. How do you help? So do people contact you and say, Hillary, I really want to know what is my soul purpose? I'm sort of floating around here, not sure. How do you help people to know this information?
I often receive that information through these teams of light with the Fairy Queen Council, more often than not the Arcturians, Kuan Yin, Mary Magdalene. There's a triad of divine feminine where Kuan Yin works with Mother Mary and Mary Magdalene, and they are all great goddesses. They're high priestesses.
Wow.
And in that, when I tune into them and I tune into a specific individual, I can be shown what their soul essences are and what their soul purpose is. And as I had mentioned a little bit about the soul essence, which leads into the soul purpose, is what I've been shown is that the different lifetimes we've had, maybe some on Earth, maybe some in the Pleiades and other star systems and other galaxies, in the angelic realm, in the fairy realm, in the elf kingdom, that the lifetimes that we have infuse our soul essence and make up who we are as eternal beings of light before we enter this physical form, once we are no longer in this physical form. And that in these lifetimes, we activate these different gifts, which we have the ability to reactivate in this lifetime.
So we come in with them, but we're not aware of what they are until our journey opens us to that.
They're dormant. So for a lot of people, for most people, it is a great challenge or adversity that will initiate and activate this sort of dormant soul wisdom, or allow that soul wisdom to be more deeply within the body. But we don't have to experience that to choose it. More often than not, it's what opens the door, because it creates such a huge transformation and rocks us to the core, some of these things that we experience. But we can also consciously choose it and choose to align with our soul essence, our eternal light body, and be seen. I'm being shown that so many listening are healers and have had healing gifts in previous lifetimes, as well as intuitive gifts.
That's so fabulous. So there are people probably listening who are saying, I'd like to find out a lot more about my soul purpose, and they would be able to contact you to find that out, right?
I'm not doing as many one-on-one sessions at this time, but in the different events that I offer and the different healing transmissions and the different trainings, that really comes through for people really powerfully. I've done over 1,000 one-on-one sessions over the past few years, but my bigger purpose is to really train and empower people to be able to do it for themselves. And that's what I've been specifically shown in training over 5,000 healers, that I can hold the energy, even sometimes in these group transmissions, where people can commune with their guides, commune with their higher selves, and receive this information directly. But yes, there's always opportunities. I'm normally booked a couple months in advance.
Oh my gosh, but that's so cool.
Session as well. Yes.
Yeah. Well, that's kind of motivation to get to know you and get on your website there. And you have an incredible story about your dog Surprise Ascension. What was your dog's name?
Her name was Miss Bobbles, which is really I actually put some photos of her here. Before she ascended, everywhere that she would be laying, she would have rainbows appear on herself. And
Wow.
that was one of the signs. I was told later that she was transitioning to the light, that she was returning
Wow.
to the light. Like the rainbow in this photo is not, it was there on her. And that's why I took that photo of her. I have this other photo where she was holding her own heart.
Oh my
And
goodness.
she was a Chihuahua, and I got her when I was 19 years old. I had her until I was 35, and she ascended actually 16 days before her 16th birthday on April 1st. Which all day that day, I kept hearing a message like there's going to be an April Fool's. And I was like, no one ever April Fools me. Why am I getting this message? What I've later found out is that a lot of people believe it's closer to April 1st that is the real new year, that is
Oh
the
wow.
astrological new year. Some people believe that Jesus' ascension was on April 1st and that it's actually a really, really sacred day. And when people were in alignment with the lunar cycles, with the 28-day months in alignment with the lunar cycle, they celebrated the new year around April 1st. But then when the Gregorian calendar came in around 1582, when people kept celebrating New Year's on April 1st, they were jokingly called April Fools because they were celebrating like the true astrological new year, which is around the spring solstice. But that's a different story. But there was a lot of synchronicities. So that day I was like, oh, it's 16 days to your 16th birthday. I'm going to take you to the botanical gardens on the birthday. I was telling Miss Bobbles. She gave me some psychic messages that day that I did not pick up on. She had a severe heart condition and an enlarged heart for over 8 years. And in the past 3 years of her life, she was on much needed heart medication, even though I tried to do everything naturally. And she told me I don't need it anymore when I gave her that dose of medication that morning. Long story short, I am from Southern California. I currently live in Sarasota, Florida. I moved here 3 years ago, but where I was living in Laguna Niguel, which is in Orange County, just right outside of Laguna Beach, I had a garden, and I was later shown it was a garden of ascension, that the grandfather who had lived there before ascended inside the garden, and
Wow.
angels came and ascended his soul. The garden had many rose bushes. It had a 14-foot long jasmine bush. It had a really special frequency. But I went outside to take her potty, and even though I was standing right there, she literally vanished into thin air. And I searched, I got the whole neighborhood searching. We searched and searched. There was nowhere for her to go. There was nothing that could have taken her. I was standing just a few feet from her. I called a friend because sometimes when something happens to us, we don't always receive the direct information. But my friend was like, a portal, he started channeling immediately. He said,
Wow.
star beings came, a portal opened. She stepped through the portal and physically dissolved. And then I was shown her, and she wasn't an 8-pound chihuahua anymore. She was a 15-foot goddess.
Oh my
And
goodness.
what I was later shown was that, and I didn't even know of any of this. So if anyone's like, this is unbelievable, trust me, it's unbelievable. It took me a long time to comprehend it. But what I was shown was that she, and I had not heard of this until this point, but there are many what are called ascension seats. So, ascension, our ability to come into oneness with our eternal light, and a seat, like literally a chair. There's ascension seats in the king's chamber inside the pyramids of Giza. There's ascension seats inside of Mount Shasta, which some think is a fifth or higher dimensional crystalline city. There are ascension seats on the Pleiades star system, M45. That she had spent the last 2 years of her life, Miss Bobbles, deaf. She could no longer hear. She was 16 years old and she had a severe heart condition. When she went deaf, she spent all of her time astral traveling. So we have an astral body, which is like a outline of our physical body. She spent all of her time astral traveling and sitting in these ascension seats, preparing for a full body ascension.
Wow.
some spiritual people believe that you have to be in a human form to ascend, like that you go through lifetimes if you're an animal or whatever, and then you have to have a human body. So I had no idea that an animal could ascend. I had no idea that she was planning to ascend. Nothing was left behind. Imagine a dog is there
Wow,
and
it's
then
like
goes
shocking.
potty and then takes a step and steps into a portal of light and physically disappears. She wasn't wearing a collar. She wasn't wearing a sweater. Literally, not a trace of her was left behind. And she was just a couple feet away from me.
Wow.
And in that, I did go through a huge grief cycle because one, I wasn't prepared. And as mystical and beautiful and wonderful as it was, I had a dog for 16 years.
Yeah,
And
you
she
lost your
took a
you
step
lost you
and
lost
she
your
was
daughter.
gone. Yes, exactly. She was my soul daughter. You picked that up,
Yeah.
Irene. When I found her, the angels told me, a huge team of angels came and they said, this is the soul of your daughter inside of this dog. Like, you have a sacred contract, and I have no children, and she was my only dog. So she was. Also, I learned because of all the trauma I went through growing up, and I had chihuahuas and dogs growing up, that they became my primary attachment figure because I felt safer with them than I did with most humans. So she was my daughter. She was my primary attachment figure. She was the love of my life. She was my soulmate. She was everything. We'd had so many lifetimes together, and to not be prepared and not to have a chance to say goodbye and to not even have a body to say goodbye to.
My
I
goodness.
was told afterwards it's like someone paying for and planning their whole funeral. Like, there was no, am I going to cremate her? Am I going to bury her? Like, nothing was left behind. So I felt completely abandoned, and it brought up so much for me. And I went through a huge grief cycle. But in that grief cycle, I had some huge awakenings. That was when all of my guides came and said, you're no longer going to be teaching anything you've ever been taught, anything you've ever taught before. And it was rich with everything. It was so much deep grief and processing so much abandonment, and it was such a huge awakening, and I was so proud of her. Like, wow, she ascended before I did.
That's
I've been
amazing.
meditating every day for 20 years.
Let me ask you, when she was with you in other lifetimes, why did she come to you as a dog in this lifetime? And when she was with you in other lifetimes, was she also an animal, or was she a human being in your life in some of those incarnations?
We've had lifetimes where she was a human, but the two primary ones, she was an animal. One, she was a wolf that was my like companion when I lived in Scotland in a different
Wow.
life. And in that life,
Wow.
we were completely telepathic. In a previous life, she was a black jaguar who rescued me as a young child when I was separated from my village in South America. And in that life, she activated my ability to communicate with animals and to help others open their ability to communicate with animals. So we had many lifetimes. She tried to come through in a previous relationship, but I was too young, where her soul wanted to come through as a human, as a daughter. And when I decided not to, because again, I got her when I was 19. She chose that form to come through, but they were very clear that she was the soul of my daughter in
Wow.
a dog form.
Oh my God, it must have been so fulfilling, and just took such good care of you when she probably snuggled up close to you and loved you. I think I can't even, must have been wonderful. So now her ascension opens up an awakening and rebirth within you that changes your life and your teachings. What was that all about?
She became my introducer on the other side. This is when, after that, I met the Fairy Queen Council. I began communing with the Arcturians. The Lemurians came to me and gave me that message of, you
Wow.
will be bringing forward all new teachings now. And every time in my grief, I will admit, because I felt abandoned, I had trouble connecting with her directly. And she was purposely, because I channeled all of my purest love into her for 16 years, that she was like, I don't want you connecting with me as much. You have to channel that love into yourself. But she became the bringer of the biggest gifts of my life, where she's like, oh, it's the Fairy Queen of Light and the Fairy Queen of Counsel, and you have something you want to bring forth to humanity. Let me introduce you to Hillary. Oh, Arcturians, you want to start bringing all of these healings to humanity, including how to regenerate the nervous system with the crystalline chambers, how to harmonize the hormones, how to repair the aura. I have someone to introduce you to. So she just started bringing
Amazing.
guide after guide, the purest, most incredible guides who had gifts that they wanted to bring to humanity. She would bring them all to me, and I knew it was her bringing them all to me. I had an incredible experience a few days after her ascension where I started seeing so many animal spirits, and this will make me cry because it was deeply humbling, where an animal spirit came to me. It was a spirit of a rabbit and then a spirit of a bear. And they said to me, it's you, we found you, the one who held love so pure that the Chihuahua full body ascended. And all of these animal spirits, there's like 1,000 in a line waiting to meet me.
Wow.
I had some beautiful experience with a real life coyote too, because when I moved into that house, because there are coyotes in Southern California, I put up a wall of light, and I didn't know what I was doing, I thought. And when I was doing it, I thought, you're making this up. You don't know what you're doing. But there was a tall wall and then a hill behind, and I knew there were coyotes. So I put up a wall of light around the brick wall, and I psychically communicated saying, no coyote will ever come in this yard, and no coyote will ever come near Miss Bobbles. Then, a week after her ascension, what seemed like the king of the coyotes, a very healthy, large, well-fed male coyote, was walking in the hill behind the house, stopped and looked at me in the eyes and was like, even though she was a couple feet away from me and it was not possible for an animal or anything to have taken her because I would have heard it and seen it, the coyote said, we want you to know without a shadow of a doubt that we honored the sacred contract with you. They
That's
said
amazing.
she is royalty to us. We would have never touched her, and we would have never done that to you. And it was just so, like, one just powerful, meaningful experience after another. Even though I was going through so much deep sadness, it was just the most profound awakening of my life, where it was just gift after gift.
That's amazing, Hillary. Your story is so amazing. And could you explain your statement that we have cosmic support to help us with grief and rebirth? Does that mean from these beings of light, or how does it translate down to our lives here?
Yes, primarily from the Arcturians, but there are many benevolent star beings of light, including the Pleiadians, which are the keepers of unity consciousness. The Sirians from Sirius A are like the master teachers of our galaxy. Many of the mystery schools and wisdom centers on Sirius A. The Arcturians are, again, the master healers and the masters of ascension. And what they've shown me is that they have all of these crystals that they've programmed with so much God light, source light, pure intention to help humanity, that they're continuously beaming this harmonic crystalline light into the power centers of Earth, like into Mount Shasta, the pyramids of Giza, Stonehenge, Machu Picchu, and that they're giving each human the ability to connect with these frequencies. So they have these holographic crystalline healing chambers that are made out of liquid, living crystalline light, that they can beam these chambers down to us. And when they do, the number of healings that they've trained me in within the crystal chambers on how we can, one is called the quantum timeline harmonizer, on how we can heal past trauma, from other lifetimes, other timelines, but
That's
in this
fantastic.
lifetime, how we can harmonize the hormones, how we can regenerate the nervous system, how we can repair the aura, and the list goes on and on. So they are so deeply committed to supporting humanity. And it was my communion with the Arcturians and working with their crystal chamber healings that after all the healing work I had done, which was like countless therapy sessions and horse therapy and energy healing and EMDR and parts therapy and so many things that benefited me greatly, but it was really this that brought me back to myself and brought so much wholeness to my healing journey, where I no longer felt like there was just always so much more to heal. And they're here to help us. They really, really want to support humanity.
So, like, if we're going through something, a trauma, like you went through so many traumas, I went through so many traumas, are they channeling information into our heads to help us make better choices? Is that how they're working with us? Or encouraging us to get to a certain healer or whatever? How does that work?
Yes, it can work in so many different ways. So the Arcturians in their holographic light bodies, they telepathically communicate with each other and with us. So sometimes you will receive a message like to meditate, to go to a specific healer, to read a specific book. But what they showed me, and what I want to invite everyone to receive as a free gift from my heart, is that there are these different transmissions where we can connect to the crystal chambers, and then these holographic fields of light begin lovingly scanning for what is out of harmony, for what needs healing, whether that be a thyroid, a gland in the endocrine system, whether that be a nervous system, whether that be an emotional issue. And that these Arcturian crystal chamber master healers and emissaries of light can anchor these crystalline fields and then begin supporting us with these healing processes, which 8 years ago, I'd never heard of the Arcturians. I knew nothing about star beings. I've been doing the spiritual work for 20 years, and I knew about angels and archangels and fairies,
Yeah.
but I had no idea. And it's been life-changing for me and so many people who've worked with the transmissions that the Arcturians have shared with me to share with humanity.
That's so exciting. Do you have a special offer for members of our
Yes,
Grief and Rebirth audience today?
I do. Because I have so much compassion for what everyone may be experiencing, and no matter what that challenge may be, I never look at it on like, oh, this challenge is bigger than the other, but I just really want everyone to feel that love and support. And the crystalline light is so harmonic that it brings so much support. And after doing over 1,000 one-on-one crystal chamber healing sessions and having over 10,000 people receive these different group healing transmissions, the Arcturian shared with me that I could record what would be like an audio meditation, like a visualization, but I'd put these healing frequencies in it, like binaural beats and solfeggio frequencies, and that the transmission would be an activation of healing. So I would love to offer your whole community, which I had never offered 3 of these transmissions before, but the first one is the vagus nerve recalibration, because the vagus nerve plays such a crucial role in our heart opening and our ability to receive and our heart coherence and our breath rate. The second healing transmission is called the Crystal Chamber Adrenal Unwind, supporting more adrenal resilience for those who are experiencing stress. And then the third is called the Aura Repair. It's the 7 layers of energetic protection, where the Arcturian showed me the 7 layers of the aura. The first one represents the physical body. The second represents the emotional body. The third represents the mental body, and it goes on to 7. But they showed me there are specific frequencies. Sometimes it's the frequency of white sage, the frequency of cedar wood, the frequency of different crystals, of different roses, how we can bring these frequencies in to harmonize these 7 layers of our energy field. So these are the 3 transmissions that I use the most and that have created the most transformation for others. So people can receive that for free, and I really encourage people to receive it. You can have a seat, you can lay down. It's something you could listen to before bed. You could start your day with it if you needed a break in the middle of the day. But it's myname.com/gift. So it's Hillary with 2 L's, HILLARY, and then Faye, FAYE.com/gift. And that's where people can receive the 3 crystal chamber healing transmissions.
And we'll also leave links and all in our show notes, everyone. So if you didn't take that down quickly, it will be here for you. And I want to know, what is, of all people in the world I've spoken to, you especially, what is your message about the journey of healing and the importance of healing that you'd like to share with our listeners?
That you are worth it, that we are not here to just suffer, that the suffering, there can be medicine within the suffering, there's golden teachings within it, but it's something that's really meant to shift or activate us into the next stage of our evolution, and that there is so much support. I receive the message that even though the challenges on Earth may sometimes feel greater than ever before, the amount of support that we have is also greater than ever before. And when we can open our hearts to receive that support, I've had other loved ones pass, like my brother passed away 13 years ago. My beloved grandmother, Brenda Faye, who I got Faye from, who was like a mother to me because she was 45 years old when I was born. She crossed over. And in those moments, the message I received is to become aware of how loved you are. And if you are listening to these words, to become aware of how loved you are and to open to receive that love. I had thought I would go through such a huge grief cycle when my beloved grandmother, who was like a mother to me, crossed over, one of the closest people in my life. But the reason I didn't is because I kept receiving that message. You are so loved. Wow. Receive the love. And I was shown that with Miss Bobbles, it was because I had the thought that I had been abandoned, that I wasn't prepared, that I didn't get to say goodbye. It's because I held on to all of that I grieved so deeply. We're meant to feel the emotions and process them, but my guide said it's what you choose to think and believe that has such a big effect, whether we've experienced a trauma, an adversity, a loss of someone passing away. And when my grandma crossed over, it was because I choose to believe how much she loved me, how loved I was, that I didn't have a big grieving process. And the big message I've gotten again and again is that love never leaves us. So those listening who are missing their beloved animal, who are missing a family member, a friend, someone who's crossed over, to become aware that that love that you shared with that being never leaves you.
It's still with you. Yes. And I totally believe that. I totally know that. And what about finding joy in life, Hillary?
I always recommend for finding joy to really sit and ask your heart. Their guides, the Arcturians, are actually sharing that like step 1, become aware of how loved you are. Step 2, breathe that love into your heart. Step 3, when you're tuned into your heart, ask your heart what it wants. What does your heart want to receive, and to do things specifically for joy? I once had a friend say that to me, like, do something for joy, whether it's watch a TV show that makes you laugh, even if you've already seen it. Go for a walk in nature. Go be around water. Be around someone you love. Make yourself a special treat. If you love to draw, draw. If you love to sing, sing. But in doing that and in receiving what brings you joy, it really shifts your frequency, and it's a cellular healing. The Arcturians are saying those activities, whether that be singing, being in nature, and to really take the time to do them. But when we're not tuned into our heart, we sometimes don't know what our heart wants or needs. So really starting by breathing that love into the heart and then tuning in to what would bring you joy, because knowing that you deserve to receive that joy.
Beautiful. Thank you. That's really great. Hillary, guided by spirit, you realized that your healing was not meant for you alone. It was a calling to ensure that no one else would ever feel unloved or alone as you once did. I just want to thank you from my heart for inspiring heart-centered energy healers to awaken to their innate gifts, and for you're helping so many people to transform trauma into healing, awaken to the love within themselves, and step boldly into the fullness of their soul's gifts. Really, I want to thank you for this really special interview, filled with so many enlightened insights. Many, many blessings to you, Hillary.
Thank you so much for your love. You're like a divine mother and an inspirer. You inspire us all. Thank you, Irene, from the bottom of my heart, and to everyone who listened.
Thank you. I really, it's my passion to help people know that they're loved and to get them to healing. They don't have to suffer the way so many people do. It's a pleasure to know you, truly.
Thanks for tuning in to Grief and Rebirth. Remember, you can dive deeper into everything we've discussed by checking out the show notes and all past episodes at ireneweinberg.com. Don't forget to follow us on social media at Irene S. Weinberg on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and wherever you love to hang out online. Plus, we're on YouTube, so be sure to subscribe and never miss a video. For those of you listening, you'll find links to my 2 books, Good to the Last Drop and They Serve Bagels in Heaven, in the show notes. And if you're watching on YouTube, you can see those books listed right above, so don't miss out. And here comes a special treat. If you sign up for Audible as a first-time user using my link, which you can find in the show notes, you can get They Serve Bagels in Heaven for free. And finally, people often ask me what I read, what I use, and what I recommend for healing and self-care. So I've carefully curated a compilation of those items to share with you. You can head over to kit.co/Grief and Rebirth to check them out. And to my cherished Grief and Rebirth podcast fans, stay tuned and see you again soon. Until next time, many blessings.